This morning, Nicholas Ninow has been found guilty of rape. He's been found guilty of possession of drugs, as well as found guilty for defeating the ends of justice. He's been found not guilty with regards to assault. Let's get the very latest from Pretoria. Our reporter Patricia Versaki is there for us. Patricia, get us some reaction with regards to this judgment.
I can't get a thing.
All right, it seems that we're having a bit of an issue. Let's try Patricia one more time. Patricia, can you hear me? It's Blaine.
Please stand by. I'm coming to just stand.
All right, Patricia Versaki, we're having a bit of an issue with regards to our audio to her. We'll try to fix it up, but let me remind you with regards to the judgment that was just handed down now. Nicholas Ninow has been found guilty of rape, found guilty of possession of drugs, and found guilty of defeating the ends of justice. He's been found not guilty with regards to assault. Now, remember, Ninow wanted the court to believe that he acted impulsively. Now, the state had to prove to the court that there was intention here. It was premeditated. And reportedly, that's what the child testified to. She testified, remember she was 7 at the time, she's 8 now. She testified that he followed her into the toilets. We heard some graphic content, some graphic detail coming out of the judgment that was just handed down now. And remember that he initially, he did plea guilty rather. Nicholas Ninow pleaded guilty to the act, but the state wanted to prove this and prove that it was premeditated, prove there was intention, and that's why they had to ask the young girl, the 7-year-old girl who is now 8 years old, to testify in camera. That's, created another conversation in terms of should she have been put on the stand, in terms of testifying, should she have relived all this that has happened to her. And that was the debate going around the country with various civic organizations and interested groups, as well as political parties coming to the fore and voicing their concerns. Patricia Versaki is standing by to find out whether, this verdict will provide any solace to the victim, to the victim's family, as well as society at large. Patricia Versaki, what's the latest?
Where's Lindo? Well, welcome back to the Pretoria High Court, where you just learned of the judgment that was delivered, of course, in this high-profile Dross rape case, where self-confessed rapist, child rapist Nicholas Ninow, of course, was found guilty on all charges except for assault. You've been hearing since this morning, of course, the activists that have come to this case, calling for no mercy and just waiting for the harshest punishment. We've heard the expectations really flowing out from the public gallery. And as I said earlier, it was really expected that, of course, the judgment was already pointing in one direction, as Nicholas Ninow had already admitted to having raped the minor. So we did expect a guilty verdict, but of course the emphasis, or rather the focus, would be what type of punishment awaits him now. And this morning we have had many deliberations really speaking about why it was important for the state to call, of course, the minor to come and testify and really respond to the written testimony that was submitted by the accused Nicholas Ninow. And that goes to the heart of the mitigating and aggravating circumstances in this particular matter that would ultimately, map out the type of sentence that we will be hearing in this particular case. But let's hear again from the activists, the political parties that have been active in this case, really calling for the criminal justice system to make an example with this particular case and really send out a very strong message against the scourge of rape. Right now it is the ANC Women's League. Just introduce yourself and then write again the message from the Women's League.
I'm Thokoz Lekas, the national spokesperson of the ANC Women's League. We are so disappointed today. We are angry. The system continues to fail us, because here today, from the sequencing of events over the past week, it was clear that today we are expecting judgment. We did not expect processes that are telling us there's information that is missing. So that is one other area of the failure by our system. When it comes to these cases, the prolonging of the whole case hearing is, at times diminishing the whole plight of what our children and our women are going through. And you'll find that by that time, the perpetrator is having it nice. We don't know where he's going to be. You can see the system is not even making him to tell us why he raped the kid. He tried to change around the narrative to please him, and we also believe the whole system is also now encouraging that by all means he has all the chances to mitigate, when in fact that little girl whose life has been destroyed continues to be under this very same trauma, because this case is not coming to an end.
But as the ANC Women's League today coming to this court, it was judgment. It means the trial processes have been done and dusted when the state rested its case last week. So when you now coming to say that you're unhappy with the fact that he did not take the stand, which of course as the judge strongly indicated in his testimony, also expressing concern about that. But of course, the law does support that. Is this not just maybe a little bit late? That should have been mentioned maybe when the trial was still on.
The processes were all here. We can testify to them, but nobody understands today to say there were social workers' outstanding reports before today. It's a matter we started very late. We thought everything has been set, and therefore we're expecting the finalization of the case so that we are done, because we also want at this point in time that this case sets a record straight that in our communities, in our society, we don't want rapists. In our community, in our society, we want life sentences for people who have committed rape and assault to our young people and our young women. So the delay in this case is really justice denied to the young.
Do you feel the fact that he didn't give his testimony, he was not put on the stand and perhaps grilled as one would have expected, do you feel that is a soft blow on his case?
It always is for victims, because now we were expecting if he would go any differently from what he changed the narrative in order to get a linear sentence in the earlier days. So today, instead of collaborating that evidence with what we have from the witnesses, now something that is not there is mentioned, that it keeps us at limbo.
You also heard the gasp coming from the public gallery. It was clear that you're unhappy with the time that was given when we will be back here. Why, in particular, the unhappiness?
We are angry. We are disappointed because the system fails us. Most of the rape cases, they prolong until, even the victims themselves, are so, tired of having to go all over again and relive the incident. And we are also so disappointed that it also came to a situation where the minor had to be brought back after a year. And you could hear the anger of women when they listened to the judgment today to say, actually, the little girl at first could not even remember. Can you imagine?
With understanding, she's very young.
It's very much understandable. That is why we're even wondering why a minor is even brought back to testify after a year. Can you imagine now going to October, still going on? So it's very much unfair.
Just the last question. As the ANC Women's League, you are part of the governing party in this country. With the concerns that you have raised, because, this case is not just, it's not an exception. There's so many of them. We're using this perhaps as a case study for the many cases in this country that are so disturbing. What will your task be to ensure that whatever it is that you are unhappy with today does not befall another victim?
Working with various stakeholders, we have converged to really say, there's also a role that we need to play as South Africans, that we must unite around these cases of rape. Hence, you could see the gallery full here, but critically for us, we've taken it upon ourselves to make sure, as the ruling party, the leadership of the ruling party is also taken to task, because all of us, we know the gaps that we have in terms of our legislation. And therefore, that is why we've put together with our stakeholders to say, these are the aspects of what we want looked at, where we've put it very clearly that this, besides just having the call from the president to say, indeed, it is a national crisis, we are saying the state of emergency needs to be called, and it has to be a unique one where it calls on for action, be it by government or all state organs. Because you can see the gap from one of the state organs that has not brought in the report that is required for the judgment to be finalized today. So those are the kinds of gaps, and those are the kinds of why we are saying all state organs need to work together in an integrate. They must be forced if they have not.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. We're running out of time. Thank you so much. That, of course, response from the ANC Women's League. Let's turn to another group that's been very active here, the Not In My Name, of course, campaign. Your reaction to the judgment?
Happy as ever, because understand that today was set aside for judgment and not sentencing. And I think our people should actually realize the difference between the two. And the judgment has been granted. So from now on, we can actually refer to Nicholas Ninow as Nicholas Ninow, the convicted rapist, and the convicted rapist, and the convicted drug abuser. And that is what we are happy about. And sentencing can only come after arguments have been done, and no one said today there was going to be any sentencing. So we should educate our people more to understand the difference between them. But we are happy that Nicholas Ninow has been convicted, and his version has been rejected by the court, and the little girl's version has been taken, which is the true and right version, that he was the one stalking her, he was the one that found her in the bathroom, not the other way around. So we cannot even, when it comes to sentencing, we can now at least expect a life sentence because he was messing around the state all around. Thank you so much.
Wait, just, we're not done. How do you respond to, of course, you heard the ANC Women's League here expressing concern that he was not put on the stand. They expected to hear his verbal testimony and him to be grilled by the state and so forth. How do you respond to that? Do you think maybe the fact that he did not take the stand, that's a soft blow to the case?
Not at all. Remember, as he's standing there, he is somebody that's defending his own case. So he felt that perhaps coming out and actually testifying, he could prejudice his own case. And the letter judge did explain in his verdict that it's actually unfortunate for his side, because now the court has to draw an inference and take a decision, and they've taken the child's testimony. So it actually works on our side as society for it.
And the fact that the state seems not to have been ready today to proceed. I mean, this is a case we could have wrapped up by end of this week, but now it's postponed to the 16th of October.
Not at all. I think that's a populist sentiment. Today was set aside for judgment. It was not set aside for sentencing at all. Nobody even promised that there would be anything when it comes to sentencing. What it was set aside was to make sure that this case is clearly put forth, and the judge did that exactly, and he's put down his reasons why he is saying that he is guilty. My issue is just the prolonged state that on the 16th that it has to wait until October. It could have been done a little bit earlier, and that's where we need our organs of state to actually work faster and work more clearly, so that we can have issues like this sorted out.
All right, thank you so much. The voice of Themba Masango from the Not In My Name civil of course, rights group here, and activists who have been very firm on this case, really putting a lot of pressure on the state to do the right thing and make sure that justice is served in the interest of the victim. We want to bring you an interview with the NPA. As you can see, obviously, it's a busy day here as all the media houses are trying to get the responses. We see the NPA spokesperson is busy there with other media, so we'll will obviously try and get a response. You would know that one of the reactions here is the ANC Women's League really expressing concern and unhappiness with the fact that Nicholas Ninow was not put on the stand. They feel that that's a softer blow, and it actually works in his favor. It is a mitigating factor that might influence the sentencing, or rather the harsh punishment that they are calling for. And of course, they're also unhappy with the fact that the case has been postponed to the 16th. They feel that this is another delaying tactic, and it does compromise. They feel that this case must be dealt with as soon as possible so that the victim can actually start a full recovery and healing process. Pindi is at the back there, so maybe we'll come back to you shortly just to find out. You saw today the court was packed to capacity with political parties, big political parties, the ANC, the EF, members of the DA, and activists from all corners of the country really coming in to put their weight behind the victim and the family, calling for the harshest punishment. You would know that Nicholas Ninow was found guilty on all charges except for assault. Now, just to give a little bit of clarity on the assault matter, you understand that that charge goes directly to, of course, the version of the child minor and the mother who apparently caught Nicholas Ninow in the Dross toilet where the rape incident took place, and they alleged that Nicholas Ninow obviously tried to close the toilet cubicle, and he was saying that stop, you're disturbing me, I am busy. And when they eventually forcefully opened that particular cubicle, he then assaulted them with a belt, with his belt buckle, but there was no evidence to actually substantiate that particular claim, and I think it is on the basis of that he was not actually found guilty on assault. Just to put clarity, but all the other charges, in particular the charge of rape, he is found guilty. So back here in the court on the 16th of October, where we will hear his final fate, what type of sentence will the Pretoria High Court, of course, lay on him? How many years will Nicholas, of course, be behind bars? You'd know that there's also, wide calls that he should not be given parole. Some saying that he should actually be given 2 life sentences. Whether that will be happening, we're not sure. Whether the fact that he did not actually testify, whether that will play in his favor, as the ANC Women's League has already expressed concern, that remains to be seen. But I think probably not likely. If you have listened very carefully to the judge's summary, he, to a large extent, actually rejected Nicholas Ninow's version, although it was a written version. And he also emphasized the fact that Nicholas Ninow did not want to get on the stand and actually give a blow-by-blow account of what he did. That also, of course, made it very concerning for the judge to actually believe him. So I see the NPA is ready here. Let's speak to Pindi Low here, so she can just tell us from the NPA side, the concern that is expressed is why the 16th? Why are we coming back only on the 16th if we could have wrapped up this case now?
Look, as we have indicated on previous reports as the NPA, that will be in the hands of the court. The court will guide us as to what will happen, when will it happen. So today we anticipated that we will be arguing in aggravation for sentence, and the defense will be arguing in mitigation of sentence. But unfortunately, the defense is not yet ready to do so. Hence, it has then brought an application for the matter to be postponed to a later date in order for it to acquire a report from a psychologist and a report from a probation officer. Now, normally a probation officer's report would take 6 to 8 weeks to prepare, and we hope that by that date it will be ready, because there's also a possibility that even by that date you find that the probation officer's report is not yet ready. That is due to the fact that they are also overloaded with work. They also have other cases that they were already attending before Mr. Ninow's request. So we will then await those processes to unfold, but by no means, as it was an outcry from the members that attended the court's proceedings, that this is a delaying tactic. By no means, this is no delaying tactic. If that was the case, the presiding officer is well placed to be able to determine unreasonable delays. But we are also of the view as the NPA that it is a reasonable request, and the accused should be afforded an opportunity to prepare himself. The court has a duty to uphold everyone's rights, and including the rights of the accused person.
Okay. Just the last question. The other concern was why did Nicholas Ninow not take the stand? Why was he not grilled on the stand? Of course, again, we have to educate the public here. Why did the NPA not call him to the stand?
No, listen, we cannot call Mr. Ninow to the stand if he did not take the stand, which means that was a strategy by the defense not to call him to give evidence in chief. So we can only cross-examine him after he has given evidence in chief. So he first has to take the stand, give evidence in chief, then the state will be allowed to cross-examine him. So in this instance, he has not taken the stand. So therefore, the state cannot be calling him. We call our own witnesses, the defense call their own witnesses.
So there are no provisions within the criminal justice system to actually force him to take the stand, although the defense did not do so?
No, the law doesn't allow us to do that. Hence, I say it's the defense strategy. We only cross-examine the witnesses they call, as much as they also have a right to cross-examine the witnesses that we call as the state.
You'd understand it's a very sensitive case. We have to make sure that South Africans understand exactly how everything is unfolding. Thank you so much, Pindi. We'll keep updated with you in terms of what the latest developments. I see the EFF is also here in court. Maybe we can, just to balance all the voices here, also hear from them. How are they actually responding to the judgment? Red Berets, if you can just come to us and also give us your version. How do you respond to the judgment? You have been in court, very active. In short, we have run out of time. Just very briefly, introduce yourself and tell us how is the EFF responding to the judgment and the summary in judgment that we heard today.
I'm Beverly Badenhorst from the EFF. I'm from the province. The judgment today is like, okay, we knew that he's going to be found guilty. We knew it because he admitted he was very clever to change his not guilty plea to a guilty plea. And that's why they couldn't put him on the stand, because I think his counselor must have told him, listen, if you go on the stand, it's going to be rough. And that's why that he changed from not guilty to guilty.
Okay. But you are happy with the judgment. What are your expectations moving forward?
Yes, we're happy with the judgment, but I won't say really much happy, because why? Okay, today was judgment. We're still waiting for the sentencing. The sentencing is going to take place on the 16th, but I believe it will be a very harsh sentence, because rape in South Africa is now like a household thing. And people don't take it serious, especially the judiciary. They don't take it serious. And because of this gender violence in South Africa, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It worsens each and every day. But the fact of the matter is, I think this time we've sent a clear message out to the judiciary to come to the table and do what they are supposed to do.
All right. Thank you so much for your response. There you've heard it from the various voices, the ANC Women's League, the activists that are here, the EFF and the NPA itself, just giving clarity as to why certain decisions were taken in this particular case. We will be back on the 16th of October, where, of course, sentencing procedures will start unfolding, and there we will hear again, the state and the defense going head to head, as of course the state will again emphasize that this was premeditated, a premeditated action, and therefore the harshest sentence should be imposed. They're calling for, of course, life and of course perhaps without parole, and we will hear what are the mitigating circumstances that the defense will put forward. Of course, they will be asking for mercy and leniency, and you've heard perhaps the trick here was behind Nicholas Ninow changing his version and actually eventually admitting to having raped a young girl, and also his version in the testimony saying that he was under the influence of drugs, he was not aware of what he was doing, and he acted impulsively. And we wait to see, is the defense still going to play on that particular version, that Nicholas Ninow did not know what he was doing. And I think at this stage we can call him convicted rapist, convicted child rapist, Nicholas Ninow. On that note, we give back to you.
All right, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much indeed for your reporting. Patricia Fasaki live for us in Pretoria. The news continues. I want to hand it over now to the On Point team. Have yourself a great day, folks. Take care.